Welcome back, everyone. We have a special guest here tonight, Mr. Ryan Turell from the Motor City Cruise.
How we
in
doing?
the G League and the NBA. Welcome. Thank you for coming by. Pleasure to have you guys. We have Moshe and Elon here as well, as always. Ryan, tell us a little about when did your passion start for the NBA or for basketball as a whole? Kind of lead us through the story, what age you got into it, and what led you to where you played prior to the G League.
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys for having me. This is going to be great. I'm excited to do this. When I first fell in love with the game, was in my front yard. I was playing basketball. My older brother always played basketball. He's 4 years older than me. And, I started playing with them on Shabbat and when they needed an extra guy. They're like, hey, you want to come join us? We'd have 5 guys. I'd be the 6th guy, 4 years younger than everybody, trying to fight for my own spot. And that's kind of where I fell in love with the game of basketball. And, kept working on it, told my dad, I want to reach my ceiling as a basketball player. I want to, keep developing. And, so how am I going to do that? And so I asked him to join a league when I was in first grade.
So you're 5, 6 years old at this time? You're playing with your brothers who are 9 and 10 years old? You're competing?
Oh, yeah. I have to pick and choose my spots. Obviously they're bigger, so I have to find, the open spot on the court. So, there was always, in our driveway, there was the right side that was kind of uneven. It was a little bit longer, so the closeout was a little bit longer so I can get a shot off there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because fast forward to my college days, my highest percentage shot, and even in the pros, was the right corner.
Oh, wow.
Which is
interesting.
Crazy, fast forward. So I fell in love with the game then, got into organized basketball in first grade, playing on a third grade team. They didn't have a first grade team at the time. And, just kind of worked my way up, playing on the best competition courts, wherever I can find the best competition, trying to develop and play against better guys the whole way through, all the way up, to the AAU days, the travel ball days in high school, where it was kind of my dream to play Division I basketball. It wasn't it was my dream. I was living basketball. I wanted to become a Division I basketball player.
This is at what age? At what point in your life were you like, I'm going Division I?
Well, I didn't know where I was going. I told my dad, who played Division I basketball at UC Santa Barbara, that I wanted to play Division I basketball. And so we kind of mapped out the route I needed to take in order to get there. He said, there's a lot of work you have to do. You're not good enough yet, but you can develop into a player if you take these steps. And one of those steps that we had to take was playing AAU travel basketball and playing against the highest competition in front of all the coaches, and because they weren't going to necessarily come to Valley Torah Division V, AA school to try to find a Division I prospect. That didn't really happen.
So it was a league outside of your high school?
Correct.
So you were in high school, I guess, playing basketball there as well?
Yes.
And playing in a separate league, developing?
Correct. So it's called the AAU circuit. I forget what it stands for, the American Athletic Union or something like that. But that's during the summer, so it wasn't conflicting with Valley Torah basketball. It was something completely separate. And so, my goal was to try to find the best AAU program and get on the best team with the best players, and, maybe college coaches, can see me from there. By around my sophomore year in high school, I was able to pick up my first Division I offer from Cal State Northridge. And the way it works with Division I basketball,
This is your sophomore year? You're already being Wow.
Yeah. High school, I had a bunch of good games in a row and was able to pick up an offer. And the way it works is once you get one, all the other coaches from that conference are showing up to your game, and all the other coaches that are within that threshold that competing with them, they're like, okay, let's go to the next game. Why do they offer this kid? And so by the time my junior year came around, I picked up offers for most of the Midwest schools, most of the Ivy League, most of the Patriot League schools.
So you had several Division I offers.
Correct. And the one school for me that I was super interested in going to, and overall, because I had a really good relationship with the coach, it's a really good education, and overall, and they were saying like we're gonna shape our basketball program around you, was West Point. For those of you who don't know that, that's Army. It's a high education. My grandfather was in the Army, so there was some level of pride in West Point. And then the head coach came to every one of my AAU games and sent me a handwritten note every week after coming to those games, like saying how much they appreciate, they love the way I played. They want to build the program around me, and so as a high school kid, I was like, this is amazing having this D1 program that it's like they're fully bought in. They want me over there. They want to develop around me. I'm totally in on this.
At that point, when did the goal come to destination NBA? When did that kind of come in? Because playing Division I is one thing, but I don't think it's the goal. I think the goal is to go to that next level.
Sure.
When did you start feeling and seeing, you know what, I'm going?
Yeah, so that didn't happen till after my sophomore year in college. So fast forward, I'm trying to
build a story. Yeah.
Yeah, so I verbally commit to West Point. Like I told the coach I'm going there.
Which NBA players came out of West Point?
None.
Also, there were no NBA.
No, there wasn't any NBA players that came out of West Point. But I felt like with their weight room and their whole facility and the way they develop things, I can reach my ceiling as a basketball player. I woke up one morning with like a weird feeling, and the coach was like, "Oh, you'll be able to keep Shabbos, keep kosher." Like he didn't really know what that meant at the time, but for me that was super important to me. And so I woke up one morning having this weird feeling in my stomach, like, did I make the right decision? I don't know. I'm going to call the Chabad rabbi of West Point up and see, what he says about the situation. So I anonymously call him up. I don't want him to know who I am. I want it to be anonymous. Like, if I'm a Orthodox Jew, like, can I keep Shabbat? Can I keep kosher? Is it possible to have Orthodox Judaism a part of my journey, and play Division I basketball? And so I called him up, and essentially during that conversation, he says, look, I don't think it's possible for you to be able to, do all those things. You might have to sacrifice Shabbat. You may have to sacrifice kosher a little bit. I'm not sure we're in a yarmulke at West Point's a great idea. So, hang up the phone with him and, say to my parents, like, hey, what am I doing? I've kept kosher my whole life. I kept Shabbat my whole life. I've gone to Jewish schools my entire life. Am I really willing to sacrifice that to say, hey, I played Division I basketball? Like, is that worth it to me? And for me, at the end of the day, it wasn't. And around that time, I was getting called. I kept in touch with Elliot Steinmetz, the head coach at Yeshiva University, who was always, super respectful of, like, go try to get a Division I scholarship, go try to, reach your ceiling, but just know that we're trying to build something here that, hasn't been done ever before, and we want to be able to build it with you around it. And, so I called him up and I pretty much told him, hey, I want to be a part of your guys' program. I want to help set the platform for kids that are going through a similar situation as me. Is, they don't want to sacrifice their Judaism, but they also want to succeed in the sports world. I
just want to cut you off right there because there are a lot of kids, I'm sure, that are going to be watching this, and growing up, you're taught Shabbat, you're taught kosher, you're taught these things, and this is something that your parents, what is it about Shabbat and kosher that at that stage of your life, it's a big decision, Division I basketball, next step NBA. What is it about Shabbat and kosher and Judaism per se that was so attractive to you that you said, I'm not willing to give this away for anything?
Right. There's great value
Sure.
in aspiring to those dreams, playing professional ball, and to kind of say, hang on a second, as great of a value as that is, I can potentially make millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
But Shabbat and Judaism is right up there with it, or maybe even greater,
Right.
as you made it seem.
No, absolutely. For me, it was like the family aspect of it, and also something that I've been doing my whole life. I'm a very spiritual person. I have a great connection with Hashem. I'm great. I have a great relationship with Hashem, and I always been a very spiritual person. I didn't realize the importance. I knew it was important then. I didn't realize how important that decision was till years later when I got to YU, and I was like, wow, I really made the right decision here. I wasn't 100%. I mean, I was 100% sure I wanted to keep Shabbat kosher.
Shabbat.
But I didn't realize the importance of it until later on. As most younger kids don't really appreciate the importance of it.
But that was the deciding factor. You said, I'm going,
Correct.
Shabbat is where I'm going to be, and I'll put myself in a place where I can maintain and keep Shabbat and so on and so forth.
Keep Shabbat, keep kosher, and then keep also within the Jewish community.
So I love like what you're saying. I want to just add to what Moshe is saying. I mean, this podcast was created in order to bridge the gap and just create awareness of different issues that are happening within our community. So us as Jewish people, specifically in our community, we're Bukharian Jews, and we have struggles in certain areas. One of the areas that we're struggling in our community is that there are a lot of kids who are going to public school. And there are many different reasons why they're going to public school. It could be their parents can't afford to pay for a Jewish education. It could be that it's not cool to go to a Jewish school because maybe it's cooler to be in a public school.
Sure.
Or maybe they just don't believe in Judaism, you know?
I think a lot of it is also the education part of it. My brother-in-law has an organization called Chazak. I think they took out about 1,300 plus kids from public school and placed them in yeshivas. And actually, one of the main issues there is also education. The parents believe that, the education levels at the public schools are higher than those, in Orthodox Jewish schools. So
So with that said, it's like I see a guy like you who had these opportunities to go to West Point or any of these other Division I colleges, and you speak, so highly how this was so important to you. So using you as motivation for these people who are going to be watching this in the audience, I think it's a very, very big deal that you're showing this importance, that you're showing how much you're willing to sacrifice for your identity.
Love it.
You're wearing a yarmulke on the court. That says so much.
And more than that, you know what I like about your answer? I asked you a question. I said, what was it about Shabbat and kosher that got you going? That's a hard decision. And you didn't tell me, oh, I felt it spiritual. You said family. You said I was born into it. Your decision was there, not even at 100% of that age. Listen, you're a 16-year-old kid at that time, 17-year-old? 17-year-old kid. I mean, you know a lot, but how much do you really know? And then later, looking back now, you're saying, I only realized later what it meant. So that's a big deal right there, because that goes to show us sometimes when we're at these situations and we're not sure in life, and we follow our hearts. We say, this is the right thing to do. This is what I was imbued with, and only sometimes later are we able to see the results of what we've done.
But that's
I'm
where
going to let God lead the way.
Well, that's where ignorance is bliss, right? You do sometimes things by being, not knowing things, and your heart is leading the way, and you end up doing actually the best example for so many people by just making a decision that wasn't even thought through the way you understand that it formed out to be now.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing thing.
100%. And again, I was one of those kids of like, is it cool to wear a yarmulke? Is it cool? Like, I would go to these open runs with NBA players in it, and I'd kind of not want to wear my yarmulke. I'd go play an AAU tournament. I was the only white kid on the team. I'm going to wear a yarmulke also. Like
It's out of place.
It's out of place. It's uncomfortable. I don't know. And, after going to YU and, having the success that we did, I started wearing the yarmulke in the gym with the NBA players. And not only did not only was it cool to do, they respected you more for it. And
I love the representation.
Yeah, they started asking you questions, and what's Shabbos, and what is this, what is that, and you're able to share your culture.
Sure.
With these guys that would have never asked these questions if you're not wearing the yarmulke, and you're able to also impact so many lives, based on that, and for me, the best was when we got like emails at YU of people saying, "Hey, I'm going to start wearing my yarmulke to work now." And I was like, "Whoa,
Oh, that's cool.
That's crazy. That's
amazing.
amazing.
and like stuff, and kids telling their dads, "No, I want to wear a yarmulke on the court," and I'd be like, "You sure you want to do it? It's a non-Jewish league. You should." "No, I'm going to wear a yarmulke."
That's a
And-
fact.
yeah.
We got to start designing yarmulkes for ball.
There you go. I got one right here,
Yeah.
man. We got
That's
the
nice, man.
clip keepers. It got me and the logo on the back
love
right
it.
there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Listen, you're like the Jewish Curry. You know, all the kids gravitate
You guys
toward
can
Curry.
get the Ryan Turell merch. What's the
So-
website, Ryan?
The RT11 school merch store on Clip Keepas.
All right, let's
Check
go. Let's
those
get that
out.
merch.
Yeah.
We got to get them.
Yeah.
I want to take it back a little bit. Before we started the podcast here, we were just talking about cell phones and things like that, and you saw Elon's cell phone over there, and it's a flip phone, and you ask, "Hey, are you still into flip phones?" So you went to Valley Torah, it's a Chavetz Chaim branch. I also happened to go to Chavetz Chaim 2 years in New York, 2 years in Dallas, Texas. So I do know a little bit of the the Chavetz Chaim system. So you said you had a flip phone, ninth grade, all that. I respect that. I think it's a big thing because cell phones today and all that is a crazy asset, but that's for another time.
Sure.
The question to you is as follows: you're in ninth grade, you're in 10th grade, you're in an Orthodox school, you're balling, you got coaches coming to take a look at you. You're a cool guy. How do you stay focused? Every time that happens, there's a million distractions. What did you do to stay focused to say, "Hey, I got to focus on my religion, I got to focus on ball, and I got to focus on growing"?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Discipline. And that comes with it. And this is also like a retrospect now that I'm looking back on it. Shabbat, kosher, staying religious, that's
Discipline.
discipline, right? I'm growing up, I'm putting the phone down on Shabbat. I'm not looking at it. I'm keeping kosher. I'm not going out to these restaurants that my AAU teammates are going to, even though that cheeseburger looks, pretty good.
Has there
Right.
ever been a time like you felt like I'm about to break here?
No, for me it was that was the discipline aspect of it,
Wow.
right? And so, for me, having success is just showing up, and it's what you do when nobody's watching, right? Those are the two things that I live by. So I'd always show up to the gym no matter what. If I made a commitment to a team, I was showing up to every practice, every game. I'm showing up. If I, same thing with school. I'm going to show up if we have a test, even if I didn't study. And I felt like I wasn't going to do well on the test. Right, I'm going to show up and I'm going to take the test. It's having success is just showing up, and it's what you do when nobody's watching. I was always the last guy in the gym. I was always the first one in the gym, getting reps up. And working on my craft, away from everybody. It's easy to like join a team and get the reps up during practice and maybe take a few shots here or there after practice. But if you're consistently showing up every day and putting in the work every day, you're going to start separating yourself from everybody else.
Right.
That's kind of where I wanted to go. What does your training day look like?
Sure.
What is your work ethic? Obviously, you have to work hard to get what you got. Just as inspiration for us and for the kids watching this to, in the future,
Yeah.
be able to play professional ball as well.
So for me, during the season is a little bit different than the off season. So during the season, obviously we're practicing a lot more, and you're in the gym a lot more with your team than you would be in the off season. So what I would do is, you show up, you have a practice at 10 a.m. Let's say. So that's 10 to about 1. You get there probably 8:30, get a lift in, get a stretch in, take care of your body, get shots up before. Then you have the 3-hour practice. You have recovery after. For me, I had a minimum of no matter what I did that day, I'm going to come back to the gym and I'm going to make 353s. That's what I was going to do. I'm going to track my percentages on those.
Wow, 353s?
Yeah, 350
That's
makes.
on a daily.
Yeah.
On a daily. Yeah, we can have a game that night. I'm showing up to the gym after the game. And,
I mean,
and getting
they got to
that
go
shot.
in, right? The 353s.
350
350
have to go
makes.
in.
Go in.
Crazy. And on the way here, he was telling me I think I could beat him in a shootout.
I'm not beating him in a shootout. Come on, we all know that.
That's kind of Elon. Elon is a competitor. He
Isn't
says
that what he
after-
said on the way?
That's what he said. We were on an Uber on the way. He says,
I have the
"Tonight,
recording.
I'm taking
Listen,
Ryan. We're gonna do a shootout.
Shooting's 90% confidence.
Listen,
so
I had
love
2
it.
sets of twins in a row, so I'm a good shooter, bro.
There you go.
Oh,
There you
wow,
go. I love it.
I like it.
There you
All right.
go. There you go.
But yeah, no. With that said, I wanted to go back onto one point that we mentioned earlier. I think it's a
Sure.
pretty cool fact that, you know,
This guy's hilarious. Oh my God. Go
can we
ahead.
cut that out?
Yeah, I was about in my head. I'm like, he's gonna make Michelle edit that.
I don't know if that one's kosher.
No,
but-
it's okay.
Yeah, no.
Listen, but
It's with the blessing. Don't forget the blessing.
the blessing.
This is the source.
We'll save the
not
story
the
at a different episode. But you mentioned something cool that you said you called the Chabad rabbi up and, you know, anonymous and try to find out if, you know, it's going to be a challenge for somebody keeping kosher and keeping Shabbos. And he was telling you it's going to be difficult in his opinion. Like, after you ended up going into YU and making that decision, don't you feel like even though you kind of hurt yourself by going to a Division III, you also helped yourself by now standing out? You were like the leading scorer in the nation
Yeah.
in college. So
Yeah.
that got you a lot more traction. That helped you so much more to like be out there.
Yeah.
If you were in Division I, you would be maybe coming off the bench, maybe
Sure.
a less significant player. In YU, you were the man.
Right.
You got the ball. I watched your games when you went through that 50 game, you know, winning streak, and
Sure.
everyone was talking to you. The NBA tweeted YU out. Like,
Yeah.
So
You're
that-
asking if that was consideration of going to a Division III school over.
I'm
a
not
Division
saying if it was consideration. I'm saying the mere fact that
to have more of the limelight. Is that,
I think it actually helped him. I'm saying maybe it's in hindsight it ended up
was
that
it
way.
preconceived? Is that is that what you're asking?
I'm not
was it
asking
the
if
thought?
No, I'm not asking if it's preconceived. I'm just saying the fact is that that's what ended up happening.
Yeah,
No?
100%.
It gave you much more significance that you chose that path, right?
Right. It gave me more of a platform for sure, and it made me realize that whatever you do, as long as you do it well, if you succeed, if you're performing, they're going to come find you.
Right.
They're going to come watch your games. So the NBA wasn't on the radar at that point. It was like, you know, I'm just trying to reach my ceiling as a basketball player. It wasn't till after my sophomore year. So what happened was COVID comes down during the NCAA tournament of my sophomore year. We make the tournament for the first time of my career at YU. We're on a 27-game winning streak at this point, and we're playing WPI at Johns Hopkins in a first-round matchup in the NCAA tournament. And what happened was Johns Hopkins said, hey, we're worried about COVID. You guys are from New York. The first cases are in New York. We're going to play our first. You guys are not going to, we're not allowing fans to come to this game. And so it just happened to be that we were the first game played without fans. We were the first game. And so every NBA executive happened to be watching that game just by chance, right? And in that game, yeah, it's crazy. In that game, I have a career game where I score 41 points on 16 shots. I'm 7 of 9 from 3.
16 shots, that's crazy.
I'm like unconscious. I just hit every shot that game. And, you know, next game, fast forward, I had 35 points and, you know, similar fashion and, you know, have a really good game there. And then COVID shuts down the tournament and we're all bummed out. And it's like we felt like we could have won the tournament. We just rolled through two of the best defensive teams in the country. We scored 102 on both of them. Like,
were you at the Sweet 16 at that point?
We were in the Sweet 16. So we drove all the way over to Virginia to play the games.
Oh, wow.
And the game was supposed to be in like the next day. And the minute we got off the bus, they're like, hey, they shut down the tournament.
And you're like
go
on a
home.
winning streak. And that's Sweet
Oh,
16. You go to Elite 8, Final 4, and then you're like right there.
We're right
so.
there.
Yeah, we were trying to hit the games, but we couldn't even hit the games in YU. It was packed.
Oh, yeah. No, we were.
And with COVID, they didn't even let us in, and you
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
sign up. It was a big.
Your son was an MTA at that
My
time,
son was
right?
an MT at the time, and
Yeah.
he's a big fan.
Yeah.
He came out there to play with the guys.
Yeah, always. So 2 weeks after that happened, my dad gets a call from Kiki Vandeweghe, who he's childhood friends with. They played basketball together, who was, you know, the head of, you know, basketball operations in the NBA at the time. And he said, hey, you know, I don't know if you know this, but every NBA exec was watching those two games. And teams are interested. He's on the NBA radar now. Teams are going to start showing up to practices and games. And my dad's like, funny. Like, yeah, we'll see it when it happens. And, you know, fast forward, you know, COVID kind of shuts down the next year. We only have 6 games. That doesn't really no one's allowed to come in those games. And then my senior year happens, and our coach would get a text from like, hey, this is this guy from the Portland Trailblazers. How do I get tickets to the game? And our coach at YU at least time, it's like, funny kid, like, go back to class. Like, that's not funny. Like, come up with a better joke. Come up with a better joke. And then you get another text from the Washington Wizards, and then, then the Pistons, and then, another team. And then he texts my dad. He's like, hey, is this real? Like, is this happening? He goes, yeah, it's happening. Answer the text, dude.
That's crazy.
And so they started showing up to games and, started scouting. And that's kind of how it happened. That's how I got on the radar.
So you keep bringing up your dad, and I respect that a lot.
Sure.
I think it's a fabulous thing. And, I've seen you when I, search you up online and things like that. You were always with your parents. And it brings me to think about something very interesting. I saw once an ad campaign for... they were, looking for people to adopt kids, and there was a quote there. It said, "You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent." And what I see is a lot in, our generation, what's going on actually, is that people begin to blame a lot of their downfalls, a lot of things that are going on in their life on the way they were brought up, on their parents. My dad sent me here. My mom did this for me.
Right.
And actually, I want to take the opportunity to thank my parents for everything that they've done for me. In life, we have opportunities. We've got to take them. And I just want to say thank you to Abba and Ima, if you can see me there on the camera. But what I'm trying to say is that they've become a lot of... there's been a blame game on parents. And I want to ask you, because I see the connection that you've built, how much of your success would you attribute to the fact that, you've heeded the advice of your parents, you've respected them, from what I see until today, like even to come here, the amount that your father does for you is unbelievable. And many times we don't see it. Each and every one of us, we only see the things that we see, but
we take it for granted.
Absolutely, we take it for granted. So tell me, what effect would you say the relationship that you have with your parents and the amount they do for you had the effect to your success thus far?
I'm not where I am today without my parents doing everything that they did for me, in the sense of raising me, showing up, giving me advice. There are many steps in the way where, I really came to my father and asked him, what's the best move here? What's your advice here? I'd always do that, and I still do that today. Like, hey, I don't feel like showing up, to this workout, or I don't know, like, the coach doesn't like me here, in AAU, because I got cut from my AAU team twice. Do I really want to keep showing up? And you're like, no, keep showing up. You've always shown up, keep showing up. And so having that mentor and having that person, that has my back and has my best interests at heart. Look, parents can, parents are always going to, upset you some way or somehow, just like kids are going to upset parents some way, somehow. But you need them, and you need that advice. You need somebody who has your best interests in their corner. It may seem like the wrong advice at the time. It may seem like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not in these shoes. You haven't been in this place. But I value his advice. I listen to his advice every time, and it's helped me get to where I am today.
Well,
there's nobody in the world that wants better for you than your father.
100%.
And your
that
mother.
Goes across the board.
And your mother.
You watch your mom cheering you at games.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, she's like your biggest fan.
She's famous. They're like, when I graduated at YU, they're like, yeah, okay, we'll see you later. But is your mom saying, like, is she gonna stay and cheer? Like, we need that. We need that.
Unbelievable.
Who do you model your game after?
That's a good question. I don't have like anyone specific that I model my game after. Growing up, I was a huge Kobe Bryant fan. I was in LA. I was a big Laker fan growing up. So watching Kobe, I'd watch every single game. So we used to record the games. We were just talking about that in Pesach. We were telling somebody, but we used to record all the games, and my dad would make us do our homework first. And once we got our homework done, then we can come watch the game. And he wouldn't start it; he would wait. Finish your homework.
Wow.
If if it takes you till 10 o'clock, it'll take you to 10 o'clock. But once you're finished, we'll watch the Laker game.
Wow.
And we get to skip through the commercials and whatnot. And, and so we'd watch the Laker game. And so, watching Kobe and his work ethic just had,
Second to none.
It's just
So if I
amazing.
asked you Jordan or LeBron, you would say Kobe.
No, I would say LeBron. I do think LeBron
Wow,
is the
wow.
greatest
Whoa.
player of all time. But
I mean, he's
that's
all around LeBron saying
Yeah,
when it comes to everything
in
else.
terms of everything.
But Kobe has that Mamba mentality. So
Yes.
him being
His
your
work ethic was
I think
incredible.
in terms of a guy that didn't necessarily have the physical attributes as Jordan or LeBron, like he's the perfect example of you can, reach a certain type of ceiling with not, he's more than the average person. He's more athletic than the average person. He's bigger than the average person. But in terms of the NBA, he's relatively average. He's 35, 36-inch vertical. That's not crazy in the NBA. And, 6'6", not that tall in the NBA, 200 pounds, 205, not that heavy for a guy that size, but he always outworked people.
So him being a mentor. I mean, watching him play basketball, that's probably a really good guy to have to look up to.
Yeah.
Because I remember when he passed away, and I think it was one of the hardest moments for any basketball fan. I was like, oh my God, like he was such a big part of my life, and in the Jewish world to idolize basketball players sometimes can seem pathetic, but after I saw and heard of the dedication that he had to basketball, the dedication that he had to his family. He was, big in making money, and he was successful in that. So using a guy like that to look up to, as a basketball player, I think is good, and it's even for everyone as Jewish people. Anything that anyone does,
Absolutely.
as for success, is
And
something
by the way,
that we have to.
I respect what your dad did there, and he does a lot of the same. I learned that from Elon actually. He found a way to connect with you with what you like, and then he was able to imbue with you whatever else he wanted. Many people, right? We get lost and we say, "I'm only going to learn with my son. I only want to do this with my son." I've heard from many people who know and understand psychology of humans and are big B'nai Torah, that you need to connect with your son and your children on the levels and the things that they are interested in.
Correct.
And once you connect through there, once you have that channel, you can add anything else you want in there. But that channel is very, very important. And so that's what your dad did. And, honestly, I think he did a fantastic job.
I appreciate
I think, just it's not only basketball, he's just outstanding.
Stand-up guy, 100%.
Really stand-up guy. And,
Well, after your career night, 34 points versus Toronto, which was a great game.
Sorry, and your mom. I just said your dad, but your mom, too.
They were calling you the Jewish Jordan.
Yeah, sure.
But,
He's definitely Jewish Jordan. That's for sure.
Well, I don't know. I mean, watching you play,
we have to watch
watching you move.
we have to watch Elon versus him. We'll be able to
Yeah.
establish that after that.
I mean, Omri Caspi is also he's up there, and Denny
100%.
is
Right.
also doing so.
Denny Avdia.
But watching you move, I mean, for me, it was like watching Larry Bird.
That's what
Oh yeah, he looks like a younger version of Larry Bird.
You got
probably
the
get
look
that.
of Larry Bird. You got his moves.
Yeah.
And it's like watching a young Larry play.
People, ever since I grew out the hair, people call me Bird at the local LA Fitness.
That just
Anytime I
adds
walk
to everything else. But
Yeah.
your movements, it looks like you're Larry Bird on the court.
in. Yeah.
He has that jump shot also, right?
Yeah,
It's like
it got a lot of work to do to get there. But it's cool to be able to have those nicknames and be able to inspire people.
Good comparisons.
Yeah.
Big
of
man.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, beautiful. So, I was going to ask you because, again, sometimes in careers and, different things, we have bummers. Sometimes things,
Sure.
you want to work a certain way. You want something to work out for you. How do you cope with that? How do you cope with things that, you have certain high expectations. You're wishing that this thing's going to happen and it doesn't happen the way, and you got to tell yourself, I believe that God is sending me down this road and sending me right down the right direction. How do you cope with that? How would you tell people to deal with that?
You're going to go through highs and lows in anything in life, whether it's sports, work, real estate, anything you want to do, you're going to go through highs and lows. And I went through my fair share of them. I got cut from my AAU team twice.
Wow.
I lost Sarachek every year that I went to Sarachek. I didn't even hit a 3 my senior year at Sarachek, which is crazy. Wow. Lost at YU, where we thought we were going to win. Fast forward to the G League, didn't initially get that many minutes to start and, trying to find a spot, trying to find a role, working my way into a spot, even now. I'd say stay consistent the whole way through.
Stay consistent. the whole way.
Don't get discouraged from the lows. Don't get too up on yourself on the highs.
Right.
You have to have the same mentality, whether whether you're winning by 30 or losing by 30. I'm gonna go hard every time.
Yeah.
And controlling the controllables.
I heard from a guy this week, actually, I was watching online. He said, if you go look at a heart monitor, right, when the heart is flat, when the monitor is flat, the person is dead, right? When the heart is beating, it's got its ups and downs, right? So he says the pessimist stays on the downs and says, even if it's going to go back up, it's going to come back down. But the optimist stays at the top and says, even if it's going to go down a little, it's going to come back up.
Yeah.
And so definitely I see that view, and it's very, very, very important to keep it that way.
We spoke about it earlier today, before we started the podcast, the difference between him playing in YU where he was the man, right? He's getting the ball. The team knows what's up. The team knows that, Ryan's getting the ball every moment, and the offense, went through him.
Right.
And now going to the G League, it's a little bit different, right? He has to compete and fight for that spot. He has to go against guys who are looking to get into the NBA just like he is.
Right.
So we were speaking about it earlier. How do you feel, that momentum shift from being, the top dog to being a guy who has to find himself right now?
Yeah. So let's. So prior to my pre-draft process, or in my pre-draft process, I'm flying out to the. Talk about adversity. I'm flying out to the G League Combine that night. And so if the NBA Combine invites 60, the G League Combine invites 40. So if you're one of those 100 guys, you're considered a top 100 prospect, And so I'm going to the G League Combine that night. I'm in a workout in the morning with, a few NBA guys in the gym. And I make a move. I go to the rim. Nobody freak happening. I land and I break my foot.
Whoa.
Pre-draft, break my foot, not able to work out for any teams. I'm out for 5 months.
Wow.
And, I could have said then, hey, I don't want, maybe it's not right for me. But, I was like, no, I'm going to come back. I'm going to keep working hard.
Wow.
So fast forward, I get drafted by the Pistons G League team, the Motor City Cruise, in the first round of the G League draft. And I show up to training camp. I've been healthy for 2 weeks, so I'm a little bit out of shape. I'm a little bit heavier than I wanted to be, and so I didn't perform the way I necessarily should have. And also on top of that, I'm coming from a Division III school to the G League, where everyone's either the top player or one of the top players on their Division I school, or have been in the NBA, and now they're trying to make their way back into the NBA, or guys that have played pro for multiple years. So now I'm going to go up against world-class professional athletes. So for me, it was a huge adjustment. Like, hey, this is the size, the speed, everything is just better, a higher quality. Not necessarily the skills. It's not necessarily the skills. The skills are pretty similar from a Division III and a pro. The skills are not as far off as you may think. But in terms of size and athleticism, it's night and day. At Division III, the centers are, 6'8", 215 pounds. That's a guard in the G League. I originally didn't get minutes. I started off the year not getting any minutes, and it wasn't until we were down by 40. In a home game with a sold-out crowd, all Jews, cheering my name for
Wow.
the whole game. 2 minutes ago, he subs me in, and in those 2 minutes, there was a loose ball between me and a few other guys, and it was kind of rolling, and I dove on the ball. I'm like, I'm getting this, I'm making a play happen. I dove on it, got it, threw it up to a guy, he got a dunk. The next day, and the crowd goes wild. We're down by 40. And the Jewish crowd is, you can't even hear in there. They're going.
He has the most fans, he was saying,
they're going,
coming into the games, in these G League games.
Yeah, they're going absolutely.
They're showing up in
They're
Detroit?
selling out, he said.
Wow, that's great.
In New York, they're selling out, he said.
In New York, we know, but in Detroit.
They're going absolutely ballistic, right? But the next day, so after every game or and even practice, we have film sessions on, the game and what we need to improve on and whatnot. And we got 40 bombed at home, so we got to really work on our stuff. But at the end of the film session, the coach plays the clip of me diving on the floor. And he plays it probably 8 times for the team. Same clip, says nothing. Keeps playing it. He goes, this kind of effort when we're down by 40 deserves minutes, is going to get minutes. And so don't get mad when he starts taking some of your minutes.
Wow.
And so that went from a moment right there, the 2 minutes that I get on a 40-point blowout. I made the most of my opportunity there. I controlled the controllable. There was a loose ball. I went and got it, and I put maximum effort in the shoes that I can, in
Be
the
ready
opportunity I could.
at all times, yeah.
Ready for your opportunity at all times. So that 2 minutes right there turned into 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes turned into 7 minutes. That turned into 10 minutes, and then by the end of the year, I was playing 15 minutes of the game my first year in the G League. And it was just by that moment of I had an opportunity, I seized that opportunity, I was ready for that opportunity.
I remember.
I'll make a great comparison on that. I was at the Volt conference last year where Tom Brady was a guest speaker, and he played in Michigan. And he really wanted to play in LA. He wasn't getting too many minutes out in Michigan. And he was in for about 2 snaps a game, and he wanted to leave. He was like, Coach, man, I want to get in more. So Coach told him, listen, when you're out there for your 2 minutes or your two snaps, you make the best of it.
Yeah.
And that got him into that mentality. I'm there for 2 plays. I better make the best of it. And when you see Tom play, when he messes up, when they're up by 15 or 20 or 30 points, you see him get angry. You see him get upset. You see him get frustrated on the play, and you're looking, hey, you're up by 30, game's almost over. What do you get? Every single moment, every single second, every single play, he was all in.
That's the message. Yeah. That's the message I believe in. That's the message for the viewers as well. The difference between greatness and just being regular is really the hard work. And like you said in the beginning, when no one's looking, right? And then what happens is it translates to when people are looking, when you're on the court, and you give it your all, and then you get minutes. And every single one of us get opportunities in life. Let's not miss out.
I want to send a message out. I'm thinking of myself as a kid. We grew up as big basketball fans. I mean, for our childhood, pre-cell phones and other activities, sports is all we had. And we used to go out on the courts and play ball. And at one point, somebody gassed me up. Maybe it was my high school coach, like, yo, you got skill, you got potential, you can maybe go somewhere. And one of my thoughts were, hang on a second, I observe Shabbat. I observe the Sabbath. How can I even make that work? And before I even can get into that fantasy, I'm like, oh, it's not really for me.
Yeah, you shut it down, no?
I go to my boys. I have 3 boys. We all got a bunch of boys. And they're a sports fan. And my youngest boy, Judah, he's 11 years old. I go to him, hey, what do you want to be? He says, I want to be a football player. And now he's determined to be a football player. But is that something that's realistic? I mean, what kind of message would you give the kids that are kind of living that fantasy at this point in their life, at their youth, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11?
Well, at least a football player doesn't have to wear a kippah. You got a helmet.
Well, you got the helmet.
You got a helmet.
You're right.
I think the overall message for me is it doesn't matter where you come from or what you believe in. As long as you put in the work, you could succeed in anything in life.
Wow.
And I don't care if you want to be, a real estate agent. I don't care if you want to be a scientist. I don't care if you want to be a basketball player, football player, a teacher.
Right.
Anything you want to be, I want you to go as hard as you possibly can in that direction. I
want to just say, I guess, as we're already coming to an end of the podcast here, he said something very interesting in the beginning. And I wanted you to elaborate on it. You said that you have a connection to God and you feel some sort of closeness or how do you connect? What is your way of connecting? And everyone has different ways of connecting, and it's important to understand that there's a million different ways to connect. It's not only through what you're told here. If it doesn't work, you got to keep trying new things, right? Yeah. So what's your way to connect? How do you feel that closeness?
For me, conversations in prayer and also appreciation, and having an attitude of gratitude, understanding that everything in this world was given to you by Hashem, and everything happens for a reason. Learn from the things that happen to you, but just have an appreciation of where you are at life. It could be a lot worse. It could be better. Everyone can look at life and be like you said, the optimist pessimist thing, right? Could be better. I could have not broke my foot.
Right.
I could have came in and done really well from the get go. But in the grand scheme of things, you have to appreciate everything that comes your way.
My Rav, Allah Shalom, passed away during COVID. Rabbi Walken used to teach us that. He used to say that the DNA of a Jew is gratitude. we have to always be thankful, right? Thankful to God, and like we said earlier, thankful to our parents, and thankful to really to every single one of us, because there's a pasuk says, "Kol Yisrael Arevim Zel Zel," we're all connected. So we have to be thankful. We have to see the beauty in each other, and
Rabbi
this
Wolkin
take
would-
us a long way.
Rabbi Wolker would always say, be normal. And Moshe, like in the first podcast, said balance is
Balance.
perfection.
Yeah.
So I see a guy like you who's, living in the sports world, and I see my son. I have a son, an 8-year-old kid. loves
Alicia,
yeah.
Alicia's unbelievable.
I have an 8-year-old who plays like football with he's in 3rd grade with 5th, 6th graders, and basketball with like 7th and 8th graders, and he's a great basketball player. And I just try to tell them we have to learn. Torah is important. You need to bring in a balance of sports and different elements in your life in order just to last out there. You can't just live in a box. You have to be a little bit more open-minded. And obviously, religion is our priority. That's the duty of our life. But for you, this is a job. This is, God willing, going to give you a parnasa, and you get to do something that you love, and at the same time make money with it, and still take Judaism. And you said it in one of your videos that I watched. You wanted to be that Jewish hero.
Right.
You wanted to be that Superman for the Jews, to show you can play in YU. You could be in a yeshiva and still make crazy achievements doing that.
That's right. And really, we're all really rooting for you.
Yeah.
We wish you really all the best. It's going to be very exciting for us to see you succeed. We love your game. We love you even more as a person.
I appreciate
Love
it.
you more as a person. One major thing that I like to look at, especially within observant Jews, is sometimes religion can be restrictive.
Sure.
And it's all about the angle in which you look at it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see religion more as a privilege. It's
Yeah.
obvious that you see it in that way.
Yeah.
I spoke to one of my partners today who, sometimes people go up through ups and downs, and he says, hey, Shabbat, everything stops. Shabbat is always an up.
It's funny that you say that. My teammates, I was having a conversation with them on one of our bus rides, or plane rides, but we were on a bus, and they're like, "You low key have a competitive advantage over us," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "You just put down your phone, you put down your electronics for 25 hours, like."
Yeah.
None of us can do that. None of us can even fathom that. We can try to do it for, they try to do it for 30 minutes. And so, we get on conversations on the bus. They're like, you know what, we're not going to use it for our hour bus ride. We're just going to have a talk. And
But you have
That's awesome.
he's
What an
hiring,
inspiration.
But he's got an even bigger competitive advantage. You know what it is? Obviously the situation going on in Israel, all that, you see what's going on. And we feel the pain, everyone on their own level of what's going on. Because I was saying earlier, Kol Yisrael Arevim Zel Zel, we're connected. And when you're connected, right, he's not alone. He's got 20 million, however many Jews there are out there, they're behind him. They see your success, they're happy for you. And it's something that it's a strong bond. And no one else has that. No one else has that. You'll have your family, they'll have this, that, but a bond of everyone together, selling out crowds when he comes to New York, going to Detroit to watch him play. Half of them don't even know him personally, but they're there, they're supportive. And really, Ryan, it's been a pleasure.
I appreciate you
And
guys having me.
Destination NBA.
Destination
There we go.
NBA,
I'm
and yeah, definitely.
Wherever
We're all there rooting for you.
Wherever you go, just keep to what you're doing, and everyone's very proud of you, and we look up to you tremendously, man.
Amen. I appreciate you guys having me on. This was awesome. Hopefully we were able to, help inspire the youth and people watching.
God willing.
Yeah.
Thank you,
God
Ryan.
the show.
All
Thank
right.
you all.
Thank
Thank
you,
you all
thank you.
very much for coming.
All right, guys.
Have an amazing night. Don't forget to click and to follow. We'll see you guys in the next one.
All right.
All right.